I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Heléne Yorke, one of the stars of the HBO Max show The Other Two. First thing I wanted to ask is, in your opinion, what is the most ridiculous slash hilarious thing that Brooke Dubeck has gotten herself into over the course of this show?
I think it's probably I can't remember if it was episode 3 or 4 of season 2. She thinks that she's really fancy, that she's got it made. Ends up at a Vogue party where they're unveiling the new Hadid and ends up having to be on the phone on a conference call outside the party the entire time. I've had multiple like agents and publicists and various other people of the business come up to me and be like, I just felt really seen in that moment. It's also the episode where I get to ask if Anna Wintour is going number 1 or number 2, and then I also call a woman a Chex Mix bitch. So I felt that that was really a pretty ridiculous situation for Brooke. That and also trying to get on the 30 under 30 list and using an Australian accent in a women's shop dressing room. I mean, there's just so many.
No, I always think of and again, it's just so early in the show, but again, this is how the show knew what it wanted to be. The whole thing with you going to the 11-year-old YouTube makeup tutorial woman's apartment was just absolutely insane.
Yes, insane. They're in vomiting outside of their building and outing them. Yeah, it's endless. I think that she just sort of there's this wonderful comedian, Matt Rogers, who wrote on the show, and he calls Brooke strong but wrong. She's just sort of barreling through life and diving into swimming pools that have no water in them all the time. So I think that that's sort of the origination of all of these pretty dumb things she gets herself into.
So, in on a bit of a different view, what has surprised you most about the character of Brooke over your time playing her?
Surprised me most. I think what surprises me most, or what is such a delight as an actor generally, is that this is a comedy. These characters are finding themselves in comedic situations that are insane or ridiculous, but most of them feel so true and so real. It's almost the relatability of everything in life that is bad is funny. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, and I think, oh, hello. And I think that that's what surprises me the most is the tenderness to the character, even though it's like a laugh aloud comedy. Look at this snuggly muffin.
I know she's such a whore for attention.
She's
Um,
like, I want to go on a plane with you and be your neck pillow.
I probably could sneak her past TSA like that.
Oh
Um,
my God, I love cats. I'm so allergic.
I
You're
know.
so lucky.
How uncertain? Hold on, just one sec.
This is the Zoom culture we live in. Dogs barking. The last time I did an interview, I had Fresh Direct was delivered, and they decided to like hang on to my buzzer for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's the times we live in. Um, uh, how uncertain were you of the show's future when the pandemic started? Because I can't remember if you guys had been renewed yet for season 2 on Comedy Central before that whole shutdown happened.
Actually, we were in the middle of shooting season 2 in February of 2020. So we were, in Central Park shooting a roller skating scene on the Pat Dubeck show for season 2, checking the news like, oh my gosh, you guys, Broadway just shut down. And, Riverdale just shut down, just watching everything sort of drop around us and wondering what was going to happen. And then, of course, we shut down and we shut down for a full year. And it was that summer that we found out that they had moved us to HBO Max. I don't think I felt uncertain because I really believe in the show and I really believe in how good it is. That regardless of whatever was going to happen with Comedy Central over there during, a huge amount of flux, that it was going to find a home. And we're just so happy to be at HBO Max. I feel like there's a much greater audience that's coming to it, and we feel that, which is really exciting and great.
Well, I'm just trying to remember. Was there a period between Comedy Central dropping the show and HBO Max picking it up, or did that both happen right away at the same time?
No, we shut down. Months went by, and then we didn't find out about HBO Max until August. So it was really 6 months the turnaround. But then we had to complete shooting season 2 the following February. So it was this like saga of a year where we all sort of, weren't sure when we were going to start back up again or whatever, but we knew we had a home. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. The other thing I'm curious about is, was there any difficulty in picking back up, from your shooting schedule after a year hiatus, and just having to jump back into that? Or was it like how they say it's like riding a bike? You just pick it back up and it's like clockwork.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, no. It was incredibly easy, to the point where it almost felt, and I think a lot of people feel this way about the pandemic generally, which is that an entire year of our lives just kind of dropped off the face of the planet, and time has no meaning, and we don't know how long ago certain things happened. So if anything, I'd say I showed back up on set and it felt like hitting a fast forward button or something. It was like an episode of Severance, getting out of the elevator and feeling like we had just been there. Not to promote another show, but yeah, it was like picking it back up again. I think I attribute that also to Chris and Sarah, who, write this show for the actors acting in it. So none of it feels like some psychotic heavy lift. It's like every script you read, it's fun to read and a delight. And anytime you go to work, it feels like putting on the most perfectly well fit glove,
One of the things that I think has made this show work so well right from the beginning is the chemistry that you and Drew Tarver have. And it feels like, you're watching them, you're like, oh yeah, no, these are brother and sister that have grown up with each other and annoy each other, and they love each other. How did you and Drew manage to create that great sibling chemistry right from the start of the show?
Well, thank you so much. Drew was cast in the show before I was, so I had to prove that I had chemistry with Drew in order to get the job. You've met him, you said before we started our interview, and so you know how magnanimous and lovely of a person he is. I think the biggest thing that we bring to the show generally is that we both have siblings, and I have 2, he's got 3 siblings. So the dynamic is something we understand and feel, good about. I also like to say I've never met a stranger. So when I went into audition with Drew, I was like touching him, and that sounded really bad. I was touching him.
Well, I actually know exactly what you're talking about. Like, it's that one of the first scenes you two have together. You're walking down a sidewalk in Manhattan, and he's complaining about something, and you rub his head, you rub his hair, like, oh.
I touch his ear, and I actually did it in the chemistry read, and it was like, he talks about it in interviews as like, that's when we knew we had chemistry, and I was like, oh, that's so funny. I just think, it's like an automatic familiarity, even though initially it was forced so that I could get a job and not,
Was there a scene for the second season for Brooke, for playing Brooke, that proved more challenging than others to shoot in any way?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, yes, I think the hardest balance to strike was the episode where she's at the women's panel, and her surprise at people caring what she has to say. And I can't remember it was the scene with Wanda in a hallway, and she was like, yeah, you are something. And I've never really like seen that done, I don't think, which is this imposter syndrome brought to life of thinking like, oh, I don't think I realized that I was something, or that I had arrived somewhere. Because I think we all spend so much time, climbing, but like, working so hard to make it at something that we want to, that sometimes we forget we're there. And I found that moment particularly challenging. Maybe because I deal with my own imposter syndrome. I think we all do.
Oh no, I absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
way more than I'm comfortable that I should be comfortable with. One of the other great gags from this season is, I believe your character always was talking about working with Alicia Cara, and there she is in the show. And what was working with her like?
Well, she's the sweetest thing imaginable. I like sang songs of hers back at her because I was like, this has been in my head all day. I have to get it out. And would just, sing it back at her. And she's like, oh, that's sweet. And I was like, it's not, it's weird. I'm sorry. I had to. She's Canadian. I'm Canadian. And it was our first day back after the shutdown. And I had actually randomly attempted skiing 2 weeks earlier and had torn my entire ACL. Like, basically half of my leg was dangling by a thread, and was like, had to work season 2 through dealing with this injury. Anyway, I had to like fall off of a sauna bench, and it was just a crazy day. It was first day back. I'm so grateful to her and her whole team that we got her. I mean, and then what I loved was her new album came out like right as we were releasing season 2. And so I had this like whole run on Instagram where I thought I was being hilarious, where I was like, my client's new album just dropped, like, please go check it out. So yeah, I mean, pop stars are cooler than actors. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Where would you like to see Brooke go in the future of the show? I mean, where do you think it would be fun to see her go? Because she really has accomplished a lot in these 2 seasons. Where do you think she should go from here?
It's so funny. We both, Drew and I, get asked this a lot, and it's hard to think about, especially because what I think is so great about the show is that the greater success that they have, the further they have to fall. And that's a part of what makes the show so great, is that they keep elevating where these characters find themselves, and the embarrassments are just that much greater. I think I want to see, we're now at a place where what time are we at? I want to see where she's at in the future. I want to see what happens to her relationship with Lance, and if she, gets that figured out, or where that ends up going, if she gets over herself in some way. It's so easy to think like, oh, I want good things for this character, but I don't think that's great TV. So it's like I keep wanting her to get kind of steam. If that makes sense. I hope this character gets steamrolled time and time again, Charlie.
Well, Heléne, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best during this upcoming award season. And to our viewers, please like this video, smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to go to goldderby.com and make your Emmy predictions. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Charlie.